interesting to go through the Uno Drum Anthology collection that's just come out. It's got 40 separate drum machines, and for anyone who doesn't know, the Uno Drum, although it has its own analog voices, it also plays PCM samples as well. A bit like the 808 and the 909, not everything's analog. You have 12-bit samples in there as well. So you have a choice of 5 voices for each of the elements on this. So for the kick, for example, you can have analog or you can have 4 different PCMs, and it came standard with Uno PCM samples. So the snare again has an analog snare or 4 PCM samples. The closed and the open hi-hat has an analog hi-hat or 4 PCM samples. So what the Anthology has done is replace the final 4 PCM samples on each of the elements with 12-bit samples of old drum machines. So you're not getting an analog emulation of all these drum machines, you're getting 12-bit crunchy S950 Akai MPC style sounds. But I think it's worth noting before we start how good the analog voices on the Uno Drum are. I've seen quite a few demos of it, but no one's really talked about how good these voices are. You know, people have mentioned them and said that, they're not that tweakable. But looking at the app here, it sort of looks quite familiar, doesn't it? So on the kick, you've got tune, snap, decay, and sweep. On the snare, you've got tune, snap. You've got a low pass filter on the noise and decay. You've got tune and decay on the hats, tune and decay on the toms. So it does feel very much like some famous analog drum machines that no one really complains about a lack of tweakability on. Anyway, let's just have a listen to this kick, for example. I mean, that's great, isn't it? You've got FM in there as well. Let's turn the FM down. Let's tune it. Change the decay. And that's got some depth, that, hasn't it? And when you think you can pick these up for £178 just for this sort of quality of analog kicks, pretty cool. Let's turn that decay down a bit. Turn the sweep off. Decay up again. Let's try a bit of FM in there as well. I'm not going to go through all the sounds, but let's try the snare, shall we? Nice quality, that, isn't it? Maybe the hats as well. I think the tune on this changes the analog circuitry because it completely changes the sound. And you only have 4 options on the tune. Let's try that on the closed hat. So sort of it sounds like sort of tune 4 on the close goes with tune 4 on the open. So let's try tune 3 on both of them. Tune 2. Yeah, you get the gist. Clap. You can only adjust the decay. Feels quite familiar again, doesn't it? So they're all analog circuits, and the toms and the cowbell and the ride are all PCM samples. So you can see here that the rim's a PCM, the tom 1's a PCM, tom 2, cowbell's PCM, ride and cymbal. As I say, a bit like the 808 and the 909 have got PCMs in them. So let's have a listen to the toms, shall we? Sort of nice and gritty down that low end, aren't they? Sort of familiar as well, isn't it? Cowbell. It's quite a short sample, as are the rides, I've found. And then the crash. Just to demonstrate how they sound as 12-bit samples, I've loaded in the 808 and the 909 because we all know what they sound like. So that's the 808 kick. Let's tune it down a bit. Sounds good. Knock the decay down a bit. And you can see here on the app that now we're using a sample. We don't have access to the snap, the sweep, or the FM controls. As you play with the decay, you can sort of get a little bit of sort of weird little artifacts coming in, which is exactly what you used to get on the S950 and the old MPCs, which is what made them sound so gritty and nice. But you know, you got that 808 feel. Listen to the snare. It sounds like an 808 snare, doesn't it? But it's not going to be a replacement for buying a TR-08, I wouldn't have thought. If you're after a one-on-one replica of an 808. Let's try the 909. Sounds like a 909 again. Let's tune it down a bit. Yeah. And the snare. Yep. It's 909 sounding snare. What about the hats? Yeah, 909 hats, clap. It's not a great 909 pattern, that is it? Let's change the pattern to something more 909-y. Without tweaking it, that sounds nice, doesn't it? And using the 808 samples. And you can really hear the 12-bit crunch in that, can't you? All those little artifacts. Lovely, like my S950. So what I've done here is I've made some kits, and I've just sort of put sort of standard tuning and decay on each of them, and loaded in analog and PCM 1 for kit 1. Kit 2 is all the PCM 2. Kit 3 is all the PCM 3. Kit 4 is all the PCM 4. Kit 5 is all the PCM 5. So let's have a listen to the factory installed samples. These aren't the factory installed kits. There's like 100 kits that they come with. This is just the plain samples, really. So that's the analog and PCM 1. It's PCM 2. PCM 3. 4. And finally PCM 5. It's got a bit of Miami Vice about that, hasn't it? Sound a bit crazy just playing them like that, but they give a really broad spectrum of sounds, so you can get a really wide-ranging palette of kits from it. So let's take a look at the drum anthology libraries then, shall we? We've got 40 drum machines in all. So drum anthology 1 is the Ace Tone Rhythm Ace. Anthology 2 is these accompanists, things that people used to play with organs. Anthology library 3, some Korgs and a Panasonic and something called it's the Mini Pops. It's the Korg Mini Pops. Drum Anthology 4 is a load of old sort of vintage Rolands. Anthology 5 is the 808 plus this TR-33. Library 6 is sort of mental stuff that you've never heard before, except for this this circular drum here. When I was in school, I bought one of them, couldn't get a good sound out of it. And listening to this would be quite interesting, actually. Anthology 7 is the Simmons kits, which are those octagonal pads that people were so fond of back in the 80s. Anthology Library 8 is Joe Mock's MFB and Soundmaster SR88. 9 is some like rare 70s things. And Drum Library 10 is these what are called ultra portable or ultra compact drum machines. So there's plenty in there. But by loading in the drum machines as I've done into these sort of separate kits, means I can load them in and listen to them really quickly and just sort of get an idea of the sounds. So how do you do that? Well, you go to the site and you download the pack. So you go to IK Multimedia, Synth and Drums, Uno Drum. There we go, we've got the anthology libraries, and that brings us to that page I've just been looking at. Also, obviously, because I've just been using it, is the drum editor as well, which is really good. Works on the iPad as well. You download them from your user account and they come as Drum Anthology 1, 2, 3. I've renamed them here up in the top left, just so I don't have to keep on referring back to this page. It was driving me nuts, them all just being called 1 to 10. So let's have a go, shall we? So let's try and load in Drum Anthology 1, the Rhythm Ace. Really simple. Click install. Wait for the update to happen. And there you go, done. So close the app and turn the drum on and off. So now in kit 4, I should have the Korg KPR 77. And I do, quite cool. Going to run through all 40 of the drum machines now, so I'm going to shut up and just go through one at a time. So yeah, a really great little addition to the Uno drum, I think. It's a really nice way, just loading the samples in. It's a really nice way of sort of mixing up a track and getting some ideas, just loading in some samples and then flicking through them. And the fact that this has got presets really does set it apart from a lot of the other drum machines that are in the same price bracket. The Arturia Drum Brute Impact, I mean, a lot of people pull up and say, you know, look at the price of that and the price of this, although this has dropped in price. I think it's £178 I've seen it for recently. You know, it's whichever suits you best. Knobs and sliders and real-time access on all parameters. or a NAP, which is an editor and a librarian, presets and 40 odd drum machines. Really depends what you need, but it's, as I say, it's a great little addition to this. I think it's a really fun little tool, and it really does sound good. The analog sounds in this are really, really nice. Been really impressed by it, as I was with the Uno synth as well. Well, I hope that was of some use to somebody somewhere. See you next time.